Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Gerry's percentages later in the hour. Jason Strudwick coming up here in a few moments. Edmonton, Vancouver, Game 1 tonight. Not a lot of respect for the Canucks, even the odds makers. I mean, we did it yesterday, right? FanDuel, they've got the Oilers winning this series big, and the Oilers are a big favorite going into the game tonight. You know, Game 1 on the road. Vancouver had them all season. Vancouver's playing well. They're defending well. And everyone seems to be leaning into the idea that the Oilers are going to not only win tonight, but possibly beat up on Vancouver.
I wouldn't sleep on Vancouver.
I wouldn't
I still think Edmonton can win, but I think this is a long series. And I think if Edmonton doesn't defend well, I think if Edmonton takes bad penalties and gets dragged into the muck, because you look at what Vancouver did is they added some meanness on the back end. Mm-hmm. You know, they've got, you know, we talked about trees and shrubs on the back end. Like, they've got three monster defensemen. That's Zadorov he's a mean man. You know, Carson Soucy's a big guy. Tyler Myers is a big guy. They play physical. And then you throw in Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is a rock star.
What do they have the odds at, Hayes? Like, what does it look like?
Last time I checked the game tonight, Oilers were minus 140. You know, like that's pretty substantial for Game 1 on the road. You know, and I think the series is like minus 250 for the Oilers to win it. So basically, FanDuel's kind of saying Oilers in 5. You know, maybe Oilers in 6. But that's why you play the games. Go talk to Dallas, man. They're up 3-0 last night. That place is rocking, and all of a sudden, Colorado storms back, and they win it in overtime. I thought Carolina would win last night. Yeah. They didn't. They're in trouble. It's not over, but they're in trouble. Dallas just went through this. They dropped the first 2 games at home against Vegas in the last round, and we know how it played out. So I don't think Dallas will be panicking.
Up 3 Cobb, dude. Like,
at home, up 3-0, and you can't win that game.
Wow.
That's when you kind of think that Colorado might be like, when they have, like, they get dummied at home, or they get dummied the first game against Winnipeg, they come back and destroy, and then they come back and win that game, you got to be thinking there's something kind of magical happening for them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, could be.
Yeah. Honestly, if the goalie just makes some saves, like the saves he should, they're a good enough team. And you look at the goals they allowed. The one was a screenshot, one was redirected, the other one was a power play goal. You're chasing the game, but then Colorado just flexed. That's what it was. Like, their big boys just flexed and said, we're not going to be denied here. Mm-hmm. And they got it done. And then, you know what? Supporting staff. Did any one of us, including myself, know that Miles Wood could skate that fast? Did you see that? He was flying down the wall,
man.
And drove right hard to the net instead of circling back and trying to look for a play. That was a hell of a play. Chip up the wall to support. That's Haskin, and he goes around. That's not, that's not.
Just a great play. It's just a great
It's an unbelievable play, but he stuck with it. It's hard. It's a gritty guy who can skate and goes hard to the net and goes around a defender. Mm-hmm. He's going to pay a price if somebody's waiting for him there, and he delivers the win. You know, that was a gutsy win by Colorado.
That's the recipe, right? Like it was McKinnon, it was Nichushkin, it was Makar, it was Rantanen. Like the 4 of them. They supplied the first 3 goals. They supplied the comeback, and then Miles Wood is the hero. And what are you going to remember? Oh, big goals by Miles Wood and Andrew Cogliano and all that. And then if they win a cup, it'll be McKinnon had 29 points and Rantanen had 24 and Makar had 22.
You're right.
But there's going to be a handful of moments where other players step up. You know, and it has to be that way.
Matthew Nyes' goal.
Yes,
was a prime
exactly.
Example of it.
And Matthew Nyes exactly would be a famous goal if Nylander scored in overtime in Game 7. You know, or they won Game 7. You'd say, remember when Nyes, went to the net strong and got it done. And you need that combination. It's still going to be 80-90% top heavy. Like if Edmonton beats Vancouver, it's going to be McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman and Nugent Hopkins, but someone else will chip in. Like someone else will supply a big moment at some point in this series and in this run.
I think Evander Kane will be critical too. He's a guy who's
back in his hometown.
Well, think of it too, though. Like, if he decides that he wants to be physical and he can fight and do all of that, like, they don't have much answer over there in Vancouver for him in the top six. Because he's a unicorn. He's a guy that, to me, he's a guy that I think is very critical to the success for the Oilers.
Yeah, I agree. So it gets going tonight, and to chat about it, we're joined now by our good buddy Jason Strudwick here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. How are we feeling out in Edmonton about tonight, Struddy?
Well, I mean, first, show me a dress. I see you guys are wearing black armbands for the Leafs. Is it a week? What's a period of mourning for another Leaf first-round loss?
Just shut up.
We knew he was coming with the heat.
Well, no, I feel bad for all Leafs fans. You know I'm sympathetic towards them. It's not even fun anymore to chirp you guys. It's like a yearly thing, right? It's like Christmas comes and goes. Leafs in and out of the playoffs like a fiddler's elbow.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I guess maybe it's a week. Probably used to be a week. Now it's probably like a couple hours. You know, it's so routine now, Struddy. It's a couple hours, and then you wake up the next day and you move on with your life. You know, what else are you going to do, man?
Well, at least you have FC Toronto. You've always got them and the Argos.
Yeah, we do. FC Toronto. We do have them.
Toronto FC, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys would know. You got time to talk about it.
Yeah, we do. We can't talk about the Jays. If you've been watching them, they're even worse. The Jays are the Elks of Major League Baseball.
Listen to this moron laughing.
All right, Strud, you take the floor before we get to the Oilers. What happened? What do you think went wrong for the Leafs, and what has to happen in the future? Go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm not here to have fun. That's not my intention. I do feel bad. I feel bad for the players. It is when I watched every game, and it was you know, I really like how they tighten up at the end of that series. Defensively, give themselves a chance, but it's hard. You know, you're missing some key players, and maybe a couple guys didn't have the series they want. It's a tough one, and I go back to it. You know, some of their D played well, but I don't think there's enough there at the top end of that back end. So I can't wait to see what happens this offseason. I think, quite frankly, both Ontario teams will be really interesting to watch at what they do.
Yeah, well, we just had Steos on, right? And they hired Travis Green, and Ottawa, I think, is going to be active. I think the three Eastern teams, I think Montreal could be, they're sitting in the weeds, man. Like, the Habs got to get cooking there. And I think Jeff Gorton and company understand that. It's been a few years where they bottomed out. They're going to have room. They're going to have assets. They've built up the farm system. They got high picks. So I think Montreal, Ottawa, the Leafs, they're all on a different timeline, dealing with different players and different structure. But yeah, something likely is going to change in terms of roster personnel, in terms of possibly behind a bench here. We'll see. We were talking about, you know, this Oilers Canucks series where everyone seems to be just handing it to Edmonton. I actually got the odds wrong. I shortchanged the Oilers. They're minus 295 to win the series on FanDuel. Like, that's a massive, massive lopsided spread. So everyone thinks Edmonton rolls here. Are you thinking the same, Struddy? How do you see this playing out?
I think those odds are the same thing they had the Leafs at winning the Cup next year, don't they?
They're the highest. They're the shortest odds. Every year it rolls over. You can get them at about 2-1 right now. Good value.
Anyways, no, okay, I'll get serious. Yeah, you know what? I'm a little concerned about that. I think that people are undervaluing the Canucks, and I know that with Demko out, maybe there's a little bit of concern there, but there are some elements of this team I really like, and number one would be the size of their D-men. So I know that Hughes and Hronek aren't exactly giants, but the other four are, you know, Cole's not a giant, but he's been through this before. The other three are big guys, and they're physical. They play a heavy brand of hockey. So getting to the front of the net's going to be hard. You know, and the Kings, not that they didn't do it, but they their D isn't quite built in that way. So it's going to be tough to get there. So, you know, like you guys, I heard you talking about Evander Kane's going to get there or try to get there. Same with Leon, Connor. But I'm looking at the Ryan McLeods of the world, the Dylan Holloways. You know, it sounds like Connor Brown's going to be in. Janmark are those guys. You know, Hyman's going in front of the net. Can those, the complementary pieces, are they going to work and get whacked on the way to the front of the net? Because it's going to be uncomfortable. Then the flip side of that is on those smaller D, you've got to make it hard for them. And it's easy to say you got to plow into them, run them every time, which, yeah, you'd love to do that. But they are slippery. So and if you can't finish the checks, you have to make it hard for them to get up the ice. You know, guys used to do it to me all the time. You know, you make a pass and you kind of hold on to you, get in the way so you can't jump up in the play, and it slows you down. So I think that's something that they're going to want to look at for that D. Then up front, Pettersson, obviously, I think they're trying to figure out where his game's at. But they have some pretty decent centers and competitive guys that are going to make it a little bit tougher for Leon or as tough as Leon they had in the first round. So, the Oilers didn't exactly kill it 5-on-5. I think that the Kings scored the same number of goals as around like a baker's dozen, as they say out west here. So I think that, there's some areas that I think the Canucks are going to be pretty strong at. And I don't think the Oilers team are looking headed past these guys. But I think it's a dangerous thing for the fans to think, this is where we're automatically riding into the third round.
Struddy, if you had to circle a couple players, and I talked about Evander Kane coming in, but a couple X factors that you would see in the series, on both sides. Is there, is it Pettersson? Is it as simple as Pettersson getting going? Is it the goalie making some saves? These guys played 12 career games, 9 in the regular season, 3 in the playoffs. We don't really know what he is. But for Edmonton, who would you think it would be an X factor as far as a difference maker, especially maybe on the back end?
Yeah, on the back end, I would say Vinny Darnay. I think he's moving the puck really well, but he has to get into the mode of being kind of nasty, and even at times taking penalties on JT Miller. I love the way he battles and competes, but I think you can get to him if you keep working him over. And so I'm looking at Vinny Darnay definitely as one of the guys I think can make a difference.
With Jason Strudwick, how about your Rangers last night, Struddy and Trouba? Who did he launch at last night that got out of the way? Was that
Isn't that Pesci?
Was it Natchez?
It was
Natchez. Sorry, Natchez. Yeah,
Natchez.
Sorry.
I couldn't tell if
outrageous, man.
Did he drop or did he blow a wheel? It kind of looked like he was basically like, I got to get out of here. Trouba's going to kill me. I think he dropped.
Yeah, that's a combo.
That's I got to get out of here. And Trouba was pissed, man. But Trouba also got his elbow out. And if he got him, that could have been serious trouble. But, man, Trouba, he just roams around. And, the Rangers are up 2-0. You're an alumnus. What do you make of your Rangers at this point, Strud?
Yeah, so obviously that's a series I pay attention to, and I love Trouba. I know that there's a lot of people who don't like it, and let's just call that what it was. That's a flying chicken wing he just threw at him, and he does it all the time. He leads with that forearm, and he says he's trying to get in the chest, but if you get your chin, well, he's willing to take a penalty there because it makes you think twice about coming down on him again. But, you're looking at some of those top-end players for the Rangers, and there was a lot of power plays last night, and they both kind of killed off, it seemed, timely situations. But I'm not giving up on Carolina yet, for sure. But the Rangers, they've got some good top-end talent. I think their D is undervalued, even after Adam Fox.
Struddy, you mentioned the Leafs D, and you thought it was thin back there. Is that recipe pretty simple to rectify? It's like you get that alpha dog, and I don't know if necessarily you would call Nurse or Bouchard the alpha dog, but is that what you need to kind of, to get the minutes right for everybody else, is to have that one main guy back there that can allow? We talked about it with Pronger yesterday. It just seems like once you have that, it's very easy for everybody to get the appropriate amount of minutes.
You slot them in properly. And so I believe that the Leafs, everyone they have an NHL defenseman, I find them more than less are in the second half, the back end of your lineup, right? So you want them in 4, 5, 6. If you can get someone else up there with Riley or to play on that second pair and push everybody down accordingly, it makes life a lot easier for everyone. Everyone thinks they're a first or second pairing defenseman. And then you get out there and you're playing against, in the playoffs, whatever, pick of these final 8 teams. It's hard. Every shift, there's no free shifts in the game. So, how do you get that guy? And then where do you slot him in money-wise? For the Leafs, they've got some pretty big contracts coming up, for renewal, and guys whose deals have already been renewed. How do you fit everybody in? Those D-men are pretty expensive. So I really think that I know people are going to say, well, it's this or that they need. I look at a D because it just calms everything down. It makes it so much easier for everybody knowing you're getting minutes. Like, look at the Oilers. Once they got Mattias Ekholm, he's banging out 20, 25 minutes a night. It takes pressure off Darnell Nurse. It's boosted the play of Bouchard, so it's almost like you're getting 2 D-men for the price of 1. It pushes Kulak down to now the third pair, where that is arguably one of the best third pairs, he and Darnay. Darnay slotted properly as a 6. If Darnay's a 4, ooh, geez, all of a sudden, the old boxers get a little tight when he had out there for a game. But now they have everyone kind of slotted the right spot. Even Ceci, who, it'd be nice if it was maybe a different guy in there. They understand his role. He does his role. He doesn't try to get out. And I thought he had an excellent first round, a really good first round. So it does help. And I'm not saying the Oilers D are perfect, but they're way further down the path of being a complete group. And maybe everyone does their job more so than what the Leafs have. And I think that's an area that Tree Living's really got to figure out and work on. You saw Vancouver. They changed it, right? They traded for Zadorov, brought in Susie, Ian Cole. I mean, that's changed the look of it quite a bit for their back end. They're bigger, and, especially with Zadorov, they're definitely meaner.
Yeah, and they got Hronek the year before right at the deadline, who's really been a nice fit for Quinn Hughes settling in. That's arguably one of the best pairings in the National Hockey League this year. Struddy, what do you make of Colorado flexing their muscle last night on Dallas?
Well, I mean, you got that top line is a handful. You think about it, you're trying to defend against them. I think they had a couple goals that line. And then, I mean, the overtime goal was incredible speed by Wood, but that top line with Nichushkin and Rantanen, they're so big and so strong. And then you got like a bull in the middle. It's just pure power, right? I know he's fast, but he just looks so powerful when he's on the ice. That's a lot to handle for anyone. And having all those three guys together is a ton. And you get down like they did and come back. I'm not saying that Dallas is done, but that will set you off because you're thinking, man, we're going to be up 1-0, and all of a sudden Colorado comes all the way back. But that top line, I think that's the best top line in the league. Rantanen is in my top 3 or 4 top players. Nichushkin had a crazy first round, and now look what they continue to do, man. That's a tough, heavy first line to play against. It's not fun.
Struddy, does your boy McJesus look any different to you? Like, does he have a look in his eye where you're like, oh boy, this guy, he always means business, but is there anything where you're like, oh wow, this guy looks like he's ready to rip people's faces off?
You watched that first round, and it felt very just business-like. Even after they won, like they weren't going crazy. It was kind of like, okay, we got that step one. Whereas, I remember the first couple of years they won a round, they were really excited, and I get it. It's an evolution. So they looked very determined. I was actually down at practice the other day, and just watching them, and they're just like their tempo in practice, and they're going hard. And it wasn't a long practice, but they're just flying around. And Connor, he's not one of those superstars that, and not to, maybe that's not fair, but he's not a superstar to kind of let off. He's going as hard as he can, and I think he does that as much for himself as he does for the rest of the team to keep the pace high. So yeah, I think he's very businesslike. There's no real, I don't get a sense that there's any satisfaction winning one round. It doesn't even matter. So I think this first game tonight, I truly feel the first game is really important for Vancouver to win, because if the Oilers win it, maybe the Vancouver get a little doubt in their head. But if the Oilers lose, I mean, it's a long series. But again, I'm not saying it's over if the Vancouver loses, but I just think for Vancouver, this is a critical game one for them to get on the map and show, more importantly than anyone else, themselves, that they can do this.
Yeah, they better figure it out, Strud, and the Oilers better keep cruising, man. And the next time you're on here, you're gonna take a beating, because the Leafs are out. That's fine, but if the Oilers don't get through the second round, I mean, come on, it's basically cup or bust.
McDavid wants out of Edmonton. That's the narrative, and
Draisaitl, and because there's some big summers coming up. Like we're talking about at Marner here in Toronto, obviously. Rantanen, I believe, is due for an extension this summer.
But Hayes, lots is going to happen at the draft, and guess what we leave the draft with?
Yeah, with nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Nothing. Every year we're prepared for the craziest draft of all time, and nothing happens.
Let me leave you guys with this. Everyone always says that Ontario area players want to come home to Toronto. Like, do you think that Toronto area born players are looking at the way Marner and Tavares are playing, saying, man, I think I could get behind that. Sign me up. Like, do fans think that way? Do they thought that?
In terms of what? You're suggesting
just the way
that people
they're playing?
Running them running out of town, or the way that they play? The way they're
being treated by the fans. Do you think that, like a player, let's say I'm playing in Columbus, I'm a pretty good UFA. Do you think a Toronto-born player is like, you know what, I want to go home and be a part of that? Like, what I see online, Marner and Tavares are taking a lot of heat.
Yeah, they are.
So if you're an Ontario-born player, do you think you want to go and sign in for that? I have a hard time believing they're signing. I think they might go the other way, guys.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, the guy from Arizona signed, the guy from Sweden signed. I mean, it's tough to say, Struddy. I mean, because at the same time, like, they were also treated like gods for a long time. You know, like, I don't think it's – I've heard that too, like, oh, what are you – this is why no one wants to blah, blah, blah. Like, John literally signed here. He left his team and took a ton of heat in New York to come up here, and he's through 6 years, and they've won one round.
But what's the treatment? Like, there's idiots online that are going to make stupid comments. Right. Already today, they're like, oh, they're golfing. It's like, who cares if they're golfing? But other than that, we're talking about some morons on social media and people breaking down what they did or didn't accomplish, which is didn't. So I don't know where we got to get away from this garbage of these guys are being mistreated and looking for scapegoats. This is honestly Greater Toronto Hockey League nonsense, where it's like you get everything you want and it's never your fault and you never want to be blamed, and don't you even think about saying that I was part of the problem. It's lunacy, man. Like, what are we doing here? All we're doing is saying you didn't get it done again, and that's a bunch of years you didn't get it done. It's like little kids where you just can't say anything negative. What positive are we supposed to talk about? I don't know.
Struck a nerve. Struck a nerve.
Yes, you did, Struddy. Yes, you did. Well, listen, there was...
it's a great point by O, though. It's a great point. It's like, you know, what are we supposed to... Like, if they lose... All you're doing is breaking down what happened.
Yeah. Is it like the GTHL where we're supposed to just pump their tires and say, oh, don't worry, it's not. It's just like little spoiled kids. Like they do whatever they want, and when they hit adversity, they're like, don't blame me. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm never wrong, and don't ever tell me that. That's what it's like dealing with these guys right now. Not my problem. I just do my thing, so leave me alone. If that's the kind of culture we're going to bring, it's just who the hell knows what that is?
I think, you know, the bigger issue that the Leafs have with selling anyone, whether they're from Toronto or from Australia, is that you got to prove to people you can win. You know, like, that's more of an issue than anything, Strud. You know, that's Tavares came back because he thought they were on the verge of winning. That's why he came here, and that's why Spezza came here, and Giordano came here, and Thornton came here, and Marleau came here. It's been a long list of guys who couldn't wait to come. And they all lost. And then it's like, wow, you know, you were tough on them or whatever. It's like, what do you want? You guys came up here with the ambition of winning, and you didn't get the job done. I mean, I don't know how else you can look at it other than that. But
I think there needs to be soul searching through a lot of the people in that group, those players, and I think the organization. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And this, you know, it's obviously easy for me to say it now, but I think signing Tavares was a mistake, not the player, the contract. Because it limited what they could do and their flexibility. And, you know, again, I keep going back, and I'll keep ringing this bell, but the back end just, you know, someone's got to get those guys the pucks. Someone has to eat those minutes and be, like, stability back there, right? And they couldn't do it or haven't been able to do it. Then they're trying to work around the edges and add pieces, and it just didn't work. It hasn't worked. So, you know, where do you go from here? You know, you trade Marner, okay, well, he's got a year left on his deal, and if he says he wants to go somewhere, it might be you know, you think about what the return's going to be. It's not going to turn your franchise around, I doubt.
Yeah.
And Tavares was for a year, and that money comes off, and I'm guessing he'd probably want to come back for less. But then you still got to acquire players, right? You got to pay to get new guys in to do this job. So that's why I say it's going to be. I cannot wait to see what the Leafs do. And I know Friday is a big talk, but you know, if the coach is out, okay, that's fine. You know, he'll probably go somewhere else. But they got to figure out how does that team play? What do they do? What are the depths? It's pretty tricky. It's a lot of work there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And, you know, we'll see who's running that operation on Friday and where they take it from here. But game one tonight, Oilers, Canucks. Enjoy it, Struddy. We'll do it again soon. Go Elks.
Have a good time.
Go Elks.
Got to have a nap. It's a late one, guys. It's a late one. Talk to you guys later.
All right, buddy. There's Jason Strudwick joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. Yeah, listen, Struddy is bringing up, I always think it's the laziest thing ever. Like, well, this is why no one wants to. Do you know how many people sign here every single year? How many guys came here? Like I just referenced off the top of my head, Marleau, Thornton, Spezza, Giordano, Tavares, They all come here. This is not a place where people
I would just love to know what the
mistreatment
is. It's just like, why? Because they coughed another one up? Where's the mistreatment?
Exactly.
There's morons online that do stupid things, and they write stupid messages.
Sure.
And they burn their stupid jerseys. But as far as the mistreatment, I don't know how. I know how you get treated as a player in the organization. Everything's the best. It's the best of everything. And then you cough it up in the playoffs again, and you're never winning. What is everyone supposed to say? That's why I said it's just like little spoiled kids where you can't tell them no, or they get all freaked out and they don't know how to deal with it. That's what it feels like. It's crazy talk.
I think it just, you know what it is though, like from the outside, I think it's just noisy because it's such a big fan base. That's what it is. It's just it's loud. Like that's everything. When they're playing well, the volume's turned up to 100.
But it's noisy about everything, Noodles. I had people all over the United States, southern United States, saying, is it true about what I heard about Matthew and Marner and Nylander? And I'm like, where on earth would you ever hear nonsense like that? Yeah. I'm talking the most exaggerated, unrealistic, stupid thing you've ever heard. And I had to laugh at it. I'm like, I don't have time to even answer this because it's so outrageous. I can't do it. Why is it that everything's loud with the Leafs? Look at the people in the building when they travel. It's a massive following. It's a massive fan base. Every single thing is loud. And when you cough it up year after year, it's loud.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Like, positive or negative, it's just loud because the fan base is so big. And you pointed it out. Like, you go into Buffalo, it's loud there. Like, it happens. I think from the outside, you're like, God, everything, the volume's just at 100 on everything. Just because the fan base is like the Dallas Cowboys, it's like the Knicks and, the Boston Red Sox and Manchester United, like some of the biggest brands, it's just noisy. That's all. So when it's a negative time right now, it's noisy. That's all. That's the way I look at it.
They get covered more because they attract more viewers.
Exactly.
This is the hockey night thing where, the rest of the country's like, oh, it's so stupid. We just saw the ratings. The Leafs were averaging like over 3 million per game. The Oilers were averaging like 1 million. That's why. That's it right there. You know what I mean? A Leaf topic that goes up online compared to anything else, it's doing massive numbers.
Massive.
Because people are engaged.
But that's what it is. But I'm just pointing out the obvious.
No, I know that. But the point I'm making is the rest. I understand why there's jealousy, and the rest of the country's like, oh, here we go again. That's why.
I know. Some
that's
guy
why
wrote
the
me
Yankees
yesterday.
get talked about more than the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, some guy wrote me yesterday and he said, why don't you focus on the other teams playing in the playoffs right now? I said, we're a Toronto-based show.
Yeah.
Like, what do you...
Yeah.
And we have a lot of time for that. And we will. Like the Oilers and Canucks haven't played in a week.
Yeah. This coming Monday, we're not talking about it anymore. But we generally have to break it down for a week, and that's just the... We're getting used to it. We know the routine. We do it every year.
Yeah.
I think this year, Monday we will talk about it because there's got to be stuff coming. I don't know what.
But we're going to do that Friday. Monday, we're putting it to bed.
Well, would you assume that if they're going to move off Keefe, that'll happen before the press conference on Friday?
Don't you think it would? Why would you? Why would you have a press conference and then go? Oh, by the way, we're going to move away from the coach next week. Like you're probably making decisions sooner than later. I think what Struddy's talking about, and this goes through. Listen, all the Canadian teams get lots of focus, but he's right. Like Ottawa, Hayes, you pointed out Montreal, the Leafs. There's lots of work to be done here, and the work is going to get done, and there's going to be lots to talk about. And I think Brad Treliving's probably, if they give him the green light to roll up his sleeves and go to work, you don't think he's going to go to work?
Well, of course he'll go to work. The question is, will he get it right? Will Staios get it right? Will Kent Hughes get it right? Like, we don't know that. There's going to be mistakes that will happen too, right? Like, just because you're going to work doesn't mean that they're going to get it right. Nope. But yes, I would assume that will happen. All right, Darren Dreger's still to come. More on the Jays win today. Gerry's percentages next.
You're going to want to hear this. Gerry's percentages.
I don't love being commissioner as much as I used to. I actually love it even more.
That's the voice of a Hall of Famer.
Are you kidding? Have you been out drinking?
You're all pigeons.
filthy, filthy pigeons.
It's Gerry, Gerry.
All right, Jerry's Percentages brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beers, always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. You guys ready to hear from Gerry?
Let's go.
Yep. Jerry's jacked for the 10 p.m. Eastern Time starts of the Edmonton-Vancouver series. Make sure absolutely no one sees McDavid playing the biggest games of his career. Commissioner Masterclass right here from the Hall of Famer Gerry. I'm also mega horny. Montreal didn't win the lottery.
A little double shot. All right. Anything from Winnipeg, Calgary, the Leafs, Ottawa, anything else, Gerry, to just dump all over the Canadian hockey scene? Commissioner 101. I like that. 10 p.m. starts. Why not? All right. Let's get to the takes.
Jerry's on the Oilers big. I mean, 5 games or less big.
Ooh, 5 or less for Gerry.
Come
for the
on.
Edmonton Oilers.
He's like you guys, slapping the Canadian teams around before the playoffs.
But you're pumping the tires of a Canadian team. Edmonton's in Canada.
I know. I'm not going to slap around the Canucks like that.
No.
Pettersson is a massive factor. If he can wake up out of this slumber he's in. Is it 5 or less?
5 or less. Yeah.
10%. 10%.
Wow.
I think although Slivos, what's he going to be?
She loves.
You, yeah.
That's how it's pronounced. She loves.
She
Yes.
loves.
She loves.
She loves. God knows if he can replicate that. I know there's momentum with goaltenders, Noodles. You understand that.
Yeah.
But what's it going to be? But the other guy's a wild card too, Skinner. So I'm going 10%, man. I believe in talk in the Canucks, and they're going to make it a series, man, and they're going to fight.
I agree. I think this is a long series and a drag-em-out series. Like Vancouver won the division. People need to remember that. It wasn't Edmonton that won the division. Now, Edmonton, you give them another 5 games, they might have caught them. They were that close, but in the end, Vancouver deserves its flowers. Like this is, I think Vancouver's a really good team, well coached, well balanced. Sheloffs is a wild card, 23-year-old kid who's played 12 NHL games.
Hayes,
Literally.
you love Sheloffs, don't you?
I just love his
He smiles every time you say
she
that.
Loves you, yeah.
But he's played well, and it might be a hamburger situation there in Ottawa.
Great shirt. We need JT Miller in his dress shirt.
Did you see that? I sent that into the group chat. There was the tail of a plane that had the shirt on it. That's pretty cool.
Outstanding.
Yeah. But I think it's I'm like I'm 6%. I think this is going 6 or more. I personally do.
Here comes the old 91 here.
No, I'm not going that high.
Yeah.
I'm not going that high. I like the Oilers to win the series. I think if they get tonight, then I could see it being a scenario where they could close in 5. I'll say 20%. But I like Vancouver, too. I've been thoroughly impressed with them. Look what they just did to Nashville. That was a tight, contested, low-scoring series. Mm-hmm. Special teams are going to factor in. If they let Edmonton get on that power play and get cooking, they're in big trouble. Mm-hmm. Like, they have to play a disciplined game. It's got to be 5-on-5. If they do that, this can go long. And they can win it. If it's a 5-on-5 series, they can win this series. If they put Edmonton on the power play 4 times a game, they're done. They'll lose in 5 or fewer. I believe that. But I'll say 20%, more than you guys think that it's likely. But I'm low on this too.
Yeah.
Jerry's jacked for the big Maple Leaf management press conference, where they talk a big game, but nothing will change. Because the Core 4 is back next season.
The Core 4 is back next season. 0%.
Really?
How do you do that to yourself again? Like, why are you preparing for it to change when you know it's probably not going to? Like, you know the way these guys operate.
Because this year of all years, Hayes, if it just runs back again, people are like, I don't know what they've thought in the past, but they're going to be like, there's just no way. Like, you obviously shown it can't work and you're doing it again. and I get it, your hands are tied to a certain degree. But there's ways around everything, man. Mm-hmm. There's ways around everything in that league.
All right. 0%.
It's 0%.
I think a lot of people think 0%. I'm not going 0. But I am going low on this because I do believe, again, on Friday, if Keith Pelly and Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving are in a press conference and it seems like there's unity, if they say Brad Treliving has free reign to do what he wants to do, I think there will be change. I don't know, but I think there would be. But bottom line is I'm going to say 18%. I'm low, but not
You
0.
guys are optimistic that things will finally change. I don't see how it's that much different this year than it was last year. Last year it was proven it can't work. The year before it proved it. The year before, it's been proving it for 5 years that they can't get it done. And I wonder.
You just answer the question for yourself. If you've proven it year after year and you finally waved the white flag, that's enough.
Well, I'm doing that. I can't speak for them. I don't know if Shanahan.
Yeah, but how could you not? How could you not? How could you not? What could you possibly say? They've gone through everything. They need to do this. They got to get killer instinct. They need to come through in big moments. The power play, special teams. It's been no. So what is it this year that you're going to say they got to find this summer? What is it going to be?
It's no different than it was a year ago, and they still didn't change it. That's my point. I'm not disputing everything you're saying in your evaluation of the situation. Last year we sat there and we said the same thing. Got to change. It's over. You got to break it up. They didn't do a thing. Literally nothing. Core 4, Riley, Brody, Samsonov returned, Keefe. They didn't do a thing. Right. So why would it be different this year?
Well,
why is it different? Explain to me. I'm genuinely curious how all of a sudden it's different.
Because it's like when my mom was mad at me, Hayes. She'd say, "That's enough's enough, Jeff."
Okay.
That's why.
All right.
Enough's enough.
I agree with you. Enough's enough, but I'll believe it when I see it.
My only argument with that is I think they might have anticipated something, but maybe the Dubas thing threw them for a loop. All of a sudden, you've got to bring Brad Treliving in, and he was jumping on a moving train. So I don't think he was able to have, the off season where he was able to settle in and shape the team he wants. It was probably a lot of things that was handed to him, saying, "Oh, by the way, your first task is to sign Austin Matthews. Get that done. You got to get Willie done. We're bringing the group back. We're doing that." Like there was probably a lot of things that handed to him.
Mm-hmm. Why would that change?
What I would say is if you hope that if they have a philosophy change, that's what that's where I'm going. Is if they say to Brad Treliving, shape the team that you want to shape, then maybe there is some change in that. I'm saying maybe. I don't know.
All right. 51% they come back. 51.
Wow.
Yeah,
just over. Wow.
I'm just into the majority here because Matthews and Nylander are back. We know that.
100%.
I think Tavares is probably back. I know people, you're not buying him out. That's not going to happen. He's got 1 year left. I would think he'll be back. Marner's the one, if Mitch decides, I want to change, I'm going to move in a different direction, or they go to him and say, listen, we're not going to re-sign you because we need to take it in a different direction, that may lead to something being triggered where both parties work together and say, okay, let me move here and find my next destination, and it's tied to an 8-year extension with a lot of money. All that kind of stuff could factor in. That's the one.
Right.
But I don't know if that's going to happen, and I don't know if that's how they truly feel. I might change my mind as of Friday. I might. They might be really bold on Friday. But they also might come out just like they did last year and the year before that and the year before that and the year before that and say, we believe in these guys, and we're going to work everything else out and make the coach a scapegoat. The coach will go. They'll bring in a new coach, and they're going to say, we got money to build up the defense, and we're going to take a run at it again. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened at all. Be disappointed. I think it'd be the wrong play, but I wouldn't be shocked. And I think people should be bracing for all of these options because there is no guarantee. That has been proven year over year over year. There's no guarantee they'll do what you want them to do or what you think they should do.
All right.
What else do we have?
Gerry once shot 65 at Valhalla from the tips. Buckled on Jack and light beers. But Tiger won't nearly have as much fun or success because he's a lock to miss the cut.
65 from the tips.
From
on
Gerry.
Jack and light beers. Wow. That's a round.
That is a round.
That's a round. All right. He's got Tiger missing the cut next week.
100%. I'm sorry. I hate being in this headspace about this guy. And there's a listener who runs our show who loves the guy, and it pains him to hear this, but he can't do it anymore, man. I'm not buying into it. I've been 0% the last 5 majors when this guy's hobbling around like Forrest Gump with braces falling off, walking down the fairway. Mm-hmm. He can't play golf anymore, man. He can't do it. He's not good enough. He's not good enough to make the cut as of right now.
It's a
That's
really
a scary
tough
thing
course.
to say.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, man.
It's a damning statement.
Not a young guy. It's not a course he's that
but
familiar. It's not like a
beyond all the injuries, he does not, and this is a weirdest thing to ever say about Tiger Woods. All the injuries, he doesn't play golf enough to be good enough to even compete with these guys to make the cut. That's the simple truth of it.
That is crazy, though. But, I mean...
And I don't care how much he chips in his backyard. Everyone goes, I practice at home. Great.
Everyone practices.
No kidding. You don't play competitive golf, and you're in no physical shape, and your game is not in a position where you can just show up out of the blue at a major and make a cut. So that's enough. Enough's enough, Tiger.
Piece of me still thinks he can show up and do that. He's the greatest golfer of all time. Like, you can just turn it on. You're right. You've laid out everything. I'm going to say 25%. I'm giving 1 in 4 chance to do it.
I'm pretty low on this too, man. This course can be played so tough, man. It's so tough. It's a tough. It's the best field. It's the cut line will not be easy to shoot. I don't know, man. I don't even know if he gets through 36 holes. That's another thing. There may be an ass grab. He shanks a ball on 18 or something. He may pull the old ass grab the next day. 10%. I'll give him a puncher's chance. 10%, but I'm not high on this. Not high at all. All right, let's come back and we'll continue with Gerry's. All through the final hour here. Gerry's percentages. We got Darren Dreger still to come. More on the Jays win today. Gerry's will continue next.
Domi and Bertuzzi both return to the Leafs next season.
Okay.
Come out of break.
right out of the break, and Gerry's got a quick hitter. I love it. All right. What was that?
We have to continue to do that. Just Gerry blurting out things after the break.
Right.
I wasn't ready for that.
I wasn't either. I knew we were going to do that. I thought I would be more long-winded, and it was a quick hitter. Okay.
No, I thought you were going to tee it up. He just blurted it out, and he's ready.
All business. All business. He's got Domi and Bertuzzi returning next year.
0%.
Yeah, 5%.
0 and 5.
Because as much as you like them, other teams do too.
And the money might, you got to be money conscious, right? Like both of them are, like Max Domi's not going to play on a 1-year deal. He's going to probably want some term. Same thing with Tyler Bertuzzi. That guy, it's the right setting for them this year, but I don't think you're going to get them both back on discount deals. And so like 0 is probably a little aggressive. There might be a chance that Max Domi wants to stay on a term deal, stay here. He looked comfortable by the end, all of that type of stuff. But I just don't think it's going to work for both of them, financially.
I'm with you. I don't know if Bertuzzi, I don't know how much more he can expect to make. Like he made 5 a year. I'm sure he's looking for a longer term deal, and he'll get that. But he didn't have a great year. Like he had a lot of opportunity. He was better down the stretch. Came down the stretch hot in the playoffs. He didn't do much.
Right.
Domi, I'd be careful with Max.
Yeah, if he gets comfortable, it could be a problem.
You can't give him a long-term deal. Like I love the way he played this year. I thought he was great down the stretch.
What's your sample size? He's never had one.
Well, you look at he had the one great year in Montreal, and like a year and a half later, they were like, we got to move.
He went from 72 points in Montreal to 44 the next year.
What you got to do is you got to say what we have in place or what we have to offer is this, and if he says no, then the player moves on and does what he wants.
That's what I would do for both. Like I'd
whatever
offer
that
both
might be,
1 or
2, 3,
deals.
whatever.
Well, keep in mind they're both 29 years old going to play as 30-year. Well, Max is just turned 29 in March, but Bertuzzi will play as a 30-year-old next year, I believe. He turns. Right. I didn't check his birthday, but they're both 29, going to be 30. So, what type of term is it? A 5-year deal?
I'm not going there with either of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like you have to be mindful. It's not that you don't like the players. You got to put your business hat on and say, what is the best fit for our organization moving forward? We got to be mindful of money. Still got other question marks you got to sort out. So that's why I went very low on it. I should say 8%, but it's damn near zero for me.
Yeah, I'm low on this too. I'll be a little bit more optimistic that maybe both, because sometimes the markets don't play out, right? The players might say no, not interested July 1st, and then July 15th comes around, they haven't signed, and they circle back, and it's like, all right, we'll do it again. We'll do the dance again. Let's do a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal. I'll say 15%. I think there's a 15% chance. I think it seems likely one of them could return. And if I were to put money on it, I would say it's Domi. More likely than not, it would be Max that would return. But yeah, I think we're all kind of in the same line of thinking. The idea that both of them are going to return. And listen, there's free agents every year. You got to find the right guys. And they have some room. They have some room to spend at this point. Gerry's Percentages brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice cold beers always dialed in for game time. Hustle on your local BP tonight. Darren Dreger coming up next. The latest on Sheldon Keefe, among other coaching vacancies around the NHL. Final hour coming up. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.